another edition of the On the Mic podcast with my MMA news. I'm Mike Pendleton, and as I just told her off air, finally, after years of wanting to make this happen, I am honored, privileged, and excited to welcome into the show reigning, defending Bellator champ, now on our way towards a PFL title, the one and only Liz Carmouche. Liz, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So lots of things going on. And actually, when I spoke to you during media week last week or before your last fight, I was the one asking you all the questions about your previous stops and how I felt there was a lot of disrespect towards you. Let me just start off by saying that and then asking this. Is life better with Bellator and PFL?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely feel like a lot better treatment with Bellator and PFL.
So one reason I've always wanted to interview you is because I used to work with Luke Thomas at SiriusXM, and I was the producer of the day when they had the event in DC, and then they had you out there, and like I was telling him as it was happening live, and like I know he had his own thoughts on it. I thought it was the most like ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And I don't want to talk too much about your previous stuff, but I did have to just ask you because I was providing like on radio real-time info. Was that the most screwed up thing you've ever had happen in your career?
Almost. Oh my, it was up there. It was definitely up there. But I mean, I've gotten phone calls where I've had injuries, where I'm in that limbo of seeing if I have to have surgery and told that if I take the fight, it'll be worth my while. I'll never have to worry about it. Just push through. And only to find out that was completely not the case. So that I'd say is at the top. Second to that would probably be this being out there, especially because doing any of that type of media, we don't get financially compensated. We have to take off from work. So I took off from my job, took time off, which I'm not getting paid for, and then only to go out there and not get paid by them and then have that happen. I'm like, oh yeah, triple screwed.
I mean,
So,
that was just for those who didn't know. Obviously, you were in DC promoting an event for the UFC, and then get the news that you were released from the roster. At that my jaw hit the floor that day. But obviously, like you said, on to better things. And as someone who's been a trailblazer and been a big part of women's MMA history and legacy, when you got that Bellator belt, did it feel like everything came full circle for you?
yeah, absolutely. I felt like in the performance in that fight, I'm going round by round, and I was definitely in my head like, man, maybe I'm not actually meant to do this. I'm not doing great. And then finally come to that point in that fourth round where I'm like, no, this is my belt. Like everything else, I was greener than the person I was competing with. I didn't have enough experience. I was a white belt going against a brown belt 10-year veteran. I was always the underdog and made mistakes that cost me only because I didn't know and I hadn't experienced anything like it. And I was finally at a point where I'm like, no, the only person that's handicapping you and putting your hands behind your back is yourself. Cut this out. This is your belt. Get it. And then finally, like, was able to overcome that hurdle and push myself, get that goal. And I'm like, everything, my family's there. I've done it. I've finally achieved what I've been working so hard in my career, but I represent not just in the cage, but outside the cage 24/7.
And I want to ask about that because not only on my podcast do I try to talk to a fighter about their upcoming fight, but who they are as a person outside of the cage. When you win the belt and everything comes full circle in your career, how much does it mean to you outside of the cage? Not only for the longevity that you've had, not only for being involved in, the first, women's title fight in UFC history, but to just do it for yourself and everything that you represent.
It means so much because I'm big on telling like the up and coming fighters for our team and training partners that if this is the thing that they want, that commitment is going to require sacrifice. I go away from my fight camps and I don't get to see my son or my wife for 2 to 3 months at a time, and I'm on the other side of the country. I've missed weddings, funerals, you name it, whether it's celebrations or it's the crying pain of loss. I've experienced it all and sacrificed to make sure that I was there chasing after this belt. So for me, the achievement of the belt wasn't just everything that I did in the cage, but it's the sacrifices that all my family and friends had helped, all my training partners, my coaches to get there. So for me, that belt represented not just my hard work, but everybody else's hard work to help me get there. So that was the biggest thing, is be able to take that back and show everybody what they achieved by helping me get there.
To that point, I think your previous promotion, they're pretty well, they do well in this aspect. PFL, I know for a fact, allows the fighters to be themselves. Obviously in the UFC, you kind of have to fit the marketing machine and you've got to create a narrative and a character. But in the PFL, and it's something that once I asked Brandon Loughnane, I figured I wanted to ask everybody moving forward. The PFL just allows you to be a fighter, do the job, the task at hand, and then move on to the next, especially in the tournament stages. As someone who is a veteran, a trailblazer, and really a legend, how do you feel and how free do you feel being with the PFL, knowing that you can just be yourself and nothing else matters? They're going to take care of social media. They'll take care of the promotion. They'll take of everything else as long as Liz Carmouche just is Liz Carmouche.
Yeah, it's awesome to not have that pressure, especially if you do good with, say, like the interviews and public speaking. You may do great there, but if you're not willing and you don't have the energy, the creativity, everything to be able to also do the social media aspect, you won't rise up in other organizations. And Bellator and PFL, they support that. We'll help you with that part. You just go out there, be respectful of the staff, do your best that you can in the cage and put on a great fight and representation of yourself, and we'll help you. And that's amazing to not have that stress, because I know I suck at social media. It's not my strong point. Like, what am I good at? I'm going in there and hitting people. That's what I'm good at. I'm in there from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. at night. So I don't have a lot of energy and time, because then I'm also doing my laundry, cleaning up my place, and meal prepping. That doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room to be able to do the social media. And then once I get there, I'm like, yeah, I'm not thinking of this. Hit. No, that doesn't apply for social media. So it's great that PFL steps up for that and helps us out in that way.
Well, you're also very good at interviews, if I may say so myself. You'll be taking on Kana Watanbe at PFL in the second round of the tournament on June 13th in Connecticut. So we put your trilogy behind us, but I think we've closed the book on that chapter. Now moving forward, like, what's the mindset coming into this fight?
Finish. I've got to go out there and finish. And that's been my mindset going into every fight since I've transitioned to Bellator and certainly going into PFL. Velasquez made that really difficult. She was being super evasive when I just faced her this last time. And I suspect that Kana also understands, for both of us, we're in a really bad position, and that, yeah, we both won our fights, but that doesn't mean that we're at the top of the tournament and it guarantees our advancement. So for both of us, we've got to go out there gunning for each other to get that finish, to be able to move on, because the decision win isn't going to do anything to advance us getting ready for that tournament. So I think she knows that. I know that. And as a result, you're going to see two people trying to knock each other's heads off.
I can't wait. I know the fans can't wait. I know during media week in your last fight, I asked you what motivated you to enter this tournament and move over to the PFL, and you named three things. But now that we're in the second round, where's your mindset of like, all right, it's one step closer? And I know as a veteran like yourself is never going to get too far ahead of themselves, but is there a little more anticipation of like, let's get this done, let's get this finished? Because I mean, let's just call it what it is. To have this opportunity, not only to go into the tournament and win $1 million, which is obviously huge, but to also add another belt to your collection for your legacy. I mean, that is legend defining stuff right there.
Yeah, that means everything for me. Like I said, the achievement of the belt isn't just the accumulation, the representation of my hard work. It's for everybody else. So when my family is sacrificing, not seeing me and struggling, when my training partners have to be a body and mimic a style that isn't one that they like, and they're like, I don't know why anybody would do this. I'm like, I don't know. And it hurts them when they're willing to be the uke and be that throwing dummy and the takedown dummy and the punching dummy. And they keep putting their bodies on the line and coming in for extra training sessions. The belt is the representation of everything that they've been willing to do. So it means not just for me, but for them. So I need to bring that home to say thank you for everything that they've been doing for me.
Where would you say your happiness is in where the sport has grown, especially on the women's side? Because obviously I don't have to tell you, you're the start of it. But now knowing, multiple promotions, belts, opportunities, main events, all of that, where would you say women, or how happy would you say you are with how women's MMA has grown?
I'd say if we're doing it like on a scoring system out of 10, I'd say it's about a 7 out of 10, right? It's grown so much. It's amazing to see that women are headlining cards and a main attraction for why people come to see the sport. With the notoriety they get isn't just for, because they're showing skin, but because they're great martial artists, and that's amazing. But there's so much more room with equal pay for when women are in the headlines of the card to get paid the right way. And so that we can actually all make this a full-time lifestyle where we can commit to this and not worry about one fight costing us and not being able to ever fight again, and then going to go work as a greeter at Walmart because we don't have all these crazy endorsement deals, right? So I'd be much happier once we get to that point, and once women and just particular MMA are matching what you see in mainstream sports like the NBA, NFL, and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of atrocious that the WNBA needed Caitlin Clark for them to start providing charter flights for their teams this year. They're like, oh, it's going to cost 25 million. I'm pretty sure you're going to get that back in Caitlin Clark's first half season. So, you mentioned something though about like skin showing on the female side, and it is really blown up. Over the last few years, I think really since the pandemic, you
Yeah.
see female fighters and male fighters using sites like OnlyFans and other stuff to grow their brand in different ways. But as someone who's just is known for how great of a martial artist they are, like yourself, what's your message to the younger generation of like, yes, be yourself, love yourself, but also like represent yourself as a martial artist as well?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, be a martial artist. I understand that this is the market when we have influencer fights and when OnlyFans do supplement the income, and for a lot of times get you a fight simply because you have a million followers, right? And I'd say for the fighters where they actually do enjoy it and it's a fun experience for them and it's not taking away from their training and their performance, go for it. But if it's not bringing you happiness, if it's making you doubt the implication of what that means for your family down the road, if it's taking away from your training and your performance, then ditch it. It's not worth it. Getting that payday, maybe you'll get 40,000 a month, but if it's the cost to your soul and your performance at MMA fighter, it's not worth it to me. So you got to figure out what makes you happy. If you enjoy doing it, by all means, embrace it. Get paid for what you enjoy. But if you don't, then ditch it and just focus on being the best martial artist you can be.
That's beautifully said, and I really respect that. Now, also with everything going on with in the PFL tournament, not only are you here to gain another belt, defend like your legacy as champion right now, but there is a new wave of younger fighters coming up. Dakota Ditcheva, probably the most notable of that. How much is there, like a sense of pride within yourself to go, I know the new era is coming, but I'm not going anywhere anytime soon?
Yeah, I think there's been a few people that are like, yeah, where do you see retirement? I'm like, if I was a guy, you wouldn't be asking that for one. And then two, like if I was on a losing streak, I could get it, but not off winning and winning in a performance where I'm outclassing all the younger people that I fight. So I definitely say like I'm doing everything right to make sure that I'm in this game, and I'm definitely not somebody you can count out. So I think that should strike fear in other people because I have the experience, but I'm also being smart and being healthy to go out there and to chase those finishes and get those wins.
I think we've seen male and female that those who know their career and have been through it all, they're not ready to give up their spot anytime soon. For the record, I was never going to ask about
No,
retirement.
no, no.
No, because I think the easier way to ask is if you go in and achieve everything that you plan to do this season, what challenges you next?
Getting PFL to get that 135 division. That's what I want to be able to do. It'd be cool to get some like weird catch weight class like 130, but I also know that we're not there yet. So just being able to add the 135 division, get a whole season and be able to do another season and get a 135 belt, that would be the accumulation of my career. And I could close the doors on it, happy knowing that I fulfilled everything that I wanted to and brought PFL to weight classes that deserve to be there and represent within that organization.
Well, I knew this interview was going to be awesome, and it has been. My last one for you, Liz, and I thank you so much for giving me the time. What is your message, not only to Kana, but the rest of the division and the fans who will tune in on June 13th?
I'm hungry. I'm here to stay, and I'm getting that belt.
I cannot wait. Liz Carmouche, thank you so much. Years of me wanting this finally came true. I really thank the PFL for making this happen, and thank you for giving me the time. All the best. I cannot wait to see you back in the PFL Smart Cage on June 13th live from Connecticut on ESPN+.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.